guys, I'm Kent Phillips with Pure Solar and Electrical on the Empower Prep Unplugged podcast. Today, we are actually going to be talking about ways you can save some money on your current electric bill. I know we always talk about solar, but we're going to talk about different ideas, ways that you can end up saving money on your bill currently. So we're going to get into that a little bit. The whole time of use. I know most, people on APS out here don't really, some of them understand, but I'm thinking the majority of them just will understand and don't care, or just don't understand, period, right? So, and when I say that, I mean so APS, right, they're charging us more money, right? So they're going to charge us more money to run certain items from like 4 to 7. That's what a whole time of use is. So time of use, they use that because the majority of people get home usually around 3, 4 o'clock and use the majority of their items in their home, usually between 4 and 7. So that's why APS is going to be charging you the most, is because their grid is being used the most at that specific time. So most homeowners don't know, okay, like my wife, for example, she washes the clothes. It doesn't matter if it's 10 in the morning or 5 at night, or, running these certain large powered items at, from 4 to 7, in which we could actually save a lot of money by, not running these items. I kind of pause there because it's easy to say that, but when you got a wife, you don't, hey, babe, I need you to only wash the clothes at this time. Hey, I only need you to do this at this time.
Yeah, because odds are you're not getting your clothes washed then.
Exactly.
So you're going to be out at the stream with the rock,
yep,
scrubbing your clothes.
Exactly. So that's where, there's ways that, homeowners can actually save money. And that's by, if you're at work, in the daytime and you don't have somebody at home, it's obviously a lot harder to schedule your timing for doing those bigger kind of items.
But I know, I know on the weekends, we're home on the weekends, and that's when I have like the lower peak time.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to get all my laundry done on the weekends.
Yep.
And then we'll run the dishwasher like before we go to bed.
Yeah.
So that way, that does slow down some. My thing is when you have APS and I get my bill,
mm-hmm.
I'm always told, no matter what, you're on the best plan possible.
Yeah.
Good job, Alicia. You're so smart. Is that true?
And that's one thing at least APS will help a homeowner understand, is they'll give you, let you know, hey, you're on the right plan, or they'll actually suggest another plan.
Okay.
Like there's time of use and then there's time of use demand. And now with people that, that aren't always home, say 4 to 7, that want more of a straight buyback rate from APS, and it's not going to be straight, just say 8.5 cents all day, or say 18.5 cents all day. Because currently, right now, APS is charging us a lot, like I said, from 4 to 7 pennies on the dollar when you're when you're using obviously power in the middle of the night or in the daytime. So like when people are charging their cars, most people like to have a fast charger, right? So a fast charger, like a tier 2 charger on an EV car, those are going to charge your car pretty fast. But the reality is that most people don't actually need their car charged super fast. It would save them a lot of money if they, maybe used a smaller charger, or more like a trickle charger where they charged it overnight. Then they're not going to be obviously pulling that much power at that expensive price while charging their car or washing their clothes, or even doing the dishwashers, all those little items that you don't think of, that are actually going to be making your bill not just, 25% more. They can raise it 50, 75% more. Just knowing, okay, if I charge my car on a slow pace, if I need my car to, charge in 2 hours, you're probably somebody that's using your car for work. Mm-hmm. You're driving all over the place. Most people don't have their EV.
We get home, we shut it down.
Exactly. So most people don't need their EV charge in, an hour, 2 hours. Most can actually get away with charging their car at a slower pace, and then just utilizing it at a cheaper price to charge their car per se. So
yeah, because I was going to ask you, like, if no matter what I do we're not running the air conditioner, we barely run the heater, but my bill is still just off the charts.
And on those bills too, actually, because one thing I have an older home, right? My home's 1972. So before I purchased it and I was renting this home, we had single pane windows. We had our air conditioner was pretty much plug-in air conditioners that we'd use for the summers. And our winters were these plug-in heaters, right?
Ooh.
And those plug-in, say like an infrared heater,
Mhm.
those like bars that glow the redness, or even those electric fans, that they can rotate,
Right.
blow out some hot air. Those things use a crap ton of power, which I was unaware. This was before, honestly, I was in solar too, to where I didn't realize what I was running, how much, power these little heaters, space
Mhm.
heaters actually use. And that's when I was also getting $450 to $550 bills in my winter months. And
Ooh.
those space heaters alone. Now, if you're using them, I can recommend something else besides one of those infrared or one of those quick electric heat fans. I would recommend using one of those oil radiant kind of heaters. They're still, they can still be plugged in, but they utilize oil instead of constant electricity. So that oil can stay heated. It actually can heat a whole room. So you got your bedroom or your baby's room or your living room, whatever it is. You want that one room heated, or you have multiple rooms and you don't have actual central heat or something. Utilize one of those to at least keep that energy usage down and still get the the thing is just like all of us, we're impatient, right? So those infrared heats, that's instant heat.
Right.
When you turn on those electric fan heaters, that's instant heat. That's blowing right at you. Whereas the oil radiant, that's going to take,
Take time.
10, 20, 30 minutes to actually heat up that room to where you start noticing it. And we're, an impatient species. So, when we want it now, as Veruca Salt said, you know what I'm saying? So I don't
When
care how,
I
I
don't
want it
care, I
now.
want it now. We moved into a house one time that had those wall heaters.
Yep.
And we were new. We moved to Bend, Oregon for a year, just
Mhm.
early in our marriage, being adventurous. And it was October, November when we moved in. And so, of course, we don't know any better. Turned on those floor heaters
Yep.
all winter long.
Mhm.
And we had not a pellet stove, but a regular like wood burning stove
Okay,
in the
yep.
middle of the house. But we're impatient. I would get home from work and it's cold. So I flip those things on.
Yep.
Oh, that electric bill.
Yeah, electric.
Oh,
And those old
wow.
space heaters. I mean, I lived in Idaho, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho for quite a while. And that's what we had in a
Mhm.
cabin when we lived up there, those old, floor space heaters. And,
Mhm.
but I didn't have to pay the electric bill back then. That was
Oh,
my
that's nice.
dad. So that was, about 30 years ago. But, that's where, I mean, even back then, he would always tell us, gosh, our bill, is this much. You boys need to do this, that,
Quit heating up the whole world.
Yeah.
Shut that door.
Everything,
Mhm.
everything. To where even me, I actually was going over my house over this weekend, actually, and there's a few gaps in my house. So I had to buy some, some caulk for the windows and some other things to like some spray expanding foam to kind of seal out certain areas. Cause see, there's a inch gap under one door. There's a little gap in a window, and that literally is giving electricity away. And the way I've lived, most of my life is I don't care, that's going to raise it maybe 10 extra bucks, 20 bags, and realizing, oh my gosh, I'm literally just, my heat is going right
Mhm.
out there, cooling down that area. Or if it's the summer, my air conditioner is just going right out the garage pretty
Mhm.
much, or out all these windows, and I'm paying for it, and I don't need to be paying for it. It's the whole thing. I don't have to be, I could, change the way, I don't want to say change the way I'm living completely to where I have to, be a penny pinching dimer kind of guy, but change my ways to where, okay, common sense is telling me that, hey, if I do this, I can save 50 bucks. Hey, if I live this way, I'm going to spend an extra 50 bucks a month. And that could be one item or a
That's
couple items.
$600 a year, though.
Yeah.
One way or the other.
Exactly.
Saving it or spending it.
And that's where most of us think, okay, that month, this month is, I'm going to be okay. But they don't look over the year, right? Oh, I spent $1,200 last year in electricity. Shoot, this last year I spent $2,500. Wonder what happened. Wonder why I spent double the money.
Right.
And it's not just because you're using that much more power. We all know that the utilities go up every year as well. They're never going down, right?
Yeah.
Ever again. So you can expect to pay more year in and year out. And that's why most of us have had to change the way we actually do live in our home. Because I mean, most of us are, the last 2 years have hit us in a different way than most, than we've had to deal with in our life, I would say, to where our family had to make adjustments on how to save money for our home. That was just the way it was. We had to make a plan. The kids are nice because they'll pretty much do what, me and mama tell them to do. Hey, turn this off. Hey, turn that off.
Okay.
Most of the time. But that's where we had to at least make those adjustments to save money for ourselves. Okay, we can put this extra money towards the gas or towards the water bill or towards whatever it be, right? So, and that all really comes down to one way. Obviously, those are different tips and tricks on how to save money is utilize your large items like washing your car or washing your clothes, like charging your car. Heat, air conditioning, those need to be used when they need to be used. So you can't really say, hey, I'm not going to run my heater now because it's going to be charging me a lot more money.
Yeah, the hottest or coldest time
Yeah,
of the day.
exactly. You can't do those kinds of things.
What are your thoughts on, because I've heard that it's better to set your thermostat at a certain temperature and let it run all day off and on and regulate the temperature in the house than to come home at 4 o'clock and crank the AC to cool it down.
Yeah, because if you do, if you kept it at one solid state, say like my house, I keep it 72 degrees, right? 72 degrees. But I also have a basement, so the basement can be freezing, right? It could be like 65 degrees.
No, I just want to know, is it better to keep it regulated or
so
to come
that's
home
where, it's going to be a lot better to just keep it, say once, because if I kept my house, let's say when I left my house and I put it up to, if it's the summer, I put it up to 80, or if it's the winter, I put it down to like 68, 67 or something. By the time I get home, that's the time that they're going to be charging me the most money, right? So that's where, okay, I want to go ahead and cool my house down when I'm getting home. That AC is going to be trucking nonstop. That's going to go probably for that full 3 hours, right? Just nonstop trying to keep that temperature at one, bring it down to wherever you're comfortable, let's say 72 degrees, or with the heat, if you have an electric heat, obviously gas isn't as much, as much money as the actual electric heat is, but that's it where if you're even using electric heat and you're going to want to bring your house up to this temperature and it's saying 65, 67 degrees, you want to bring it up to 62. Well, that's that time when you're going to be warming up your house that you're also going to be paying for that the most. So I definitely would recommend just keeping that thermostat, set it and forget it kind of thing. So
that's a good idea, because I was at the different philosophy of you walk in, you keep the house closed up all day long, and then you come home and you light everything up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But that makes sense because that is that time.
That is the time when everybody's pretty much, the majority of people are at home at that time, unless, my industry was, a lot of serving, bartending, to where usually 3 o'clock was the time I'm gone, to where it's usually was the middle of the night or the daytimes where those kind of people would be using their power. Most of us, work from 9 to 5 per se, to where most of us come home 3 to 5 o'clock, use up all the power before dinner time, put the kids to bed around 8 o'clock. Or if you don't have any kids, you're usually settling everything down around 7, 8 o'clock. And maybe you got a TV on, some lights on, but you're not calling for that much power. Right. Whereas when everything's going on, whether it's just an old couple or a family of 7, a lot more stuff's going on at that time compared to the majority of other times in the day.
So check your windows and doors, make sure you're controlling those drafty areas, that you're not just putting everything outside. Check your thermostat, set it and forget it, find that comfortable temperature. The other ones, charge the trickle chargers for your cars.
Charge them instead of, that's where, on the charging, I would definitely recommend doing it in the daytime or the middle of the night. That would be the best kind of time, especially if you can have a timer. Hey, it gets to this point, it just shuts off the charger at that point to where it doesn't keep continuously in that ghost load.
Wash machines, dishwashers, try not to.
And that's another thing I wanted to talk about is, because we don't do windows, we don't do roofs, that's not what our company does. We're a solar and electrical company that's been in business for 50 years, but that's where incentives are available for these. I didn't realize that, but once I got my windows done, they were single pane to double pane windows. I got a 30% in federal ITC incentive on that. And that's something that probably most of, the listeners don't know as well, is that anything that's really going to make your home more energy efficient, which windows will make your home more energy efficient, which upgrading your HVAC system or your roof or, all these different items actually apply for that federal ITC, to where these homeowners can go ahead and not have to pay full price on it, get a little help from the government to make their home more energy efficient. So
I actually did get a programmable thermostat from APS too for free. I requested it. They sent it out to me, and still staying in the box because I need to get it on there. But it is, there are things that you can do. So, I know solar is by far the best way you're going to do it, but not all of us can afford to do that
exactly.
right now.
Exactly. So. And that's where, with solar, it is an investment. And, but that's the one investment that you see come to fruition after, it does take a few years for you to make your money back. It's different for commercial properties, but for residential, it's going to take you around 7 to 9 years to pay off your typical grid tied system. And your typical grid tied system, that's just sized large enough to offset the electricity you're actually using. Right. So when somebody's talking to a solar company per se, and that solar company is asking for that usage, let's say they use 15,000 kilowatt hours in a year. Well, when somebody's going solar and they're thinking, okay, I used 15,000 kilowatt hour a year or 1,000 kilowatt hour. Most homeowners honestly don't even know a kilowatt hour. They look at their bill. Okay, my bill's 150 this month. Oh, my bill's 300 this month. And that all comes down to how many kilowatt hours were actually bought. So when they're going and say they have 15,000 kilowatt hours, and let's say they're talking to a solar, well, I need a system that's going to produce 15,000 kilowatt hours in a year because that's what I'm using. Well, and that's where they're going to be stuck also still paying, because what they don't realize is, hey, I use 15,000 kilowatt hours from APS per se, but that doesn't include all the extra things that APS is charging me. They're charging me, the delivery charge. Right. As you look on your APS bill, take a bill from 5 years ago to right now, and you're going to see a dramatic change in how many line items are, on there. To where if you actually designed a system to say do 100% of the electricity that you use, you're probably going to only offset around 70-75% of your bill. Where nowadays you actually need that system closer to the 140-150% energy offset to that extra 40-50% is taking care of all the extra line items that APS is charging you for.
Oh, that's good to know, because I assumed I would still get a bill from delivery charge, this tax,
and that's where you're still going to get that, but that extra production that your system's producing is taking care of that extra charge. Because if you only did 100%, you're still now paying APS still every month for all their extra stuff, right? So that makes it at least nicer, knowing that when you're going into it, you don't want to undersize your system. Right. Then you're really realistically, if you're financing a system, nobody wants to pay two bills, Okay, I bought a $20,000, $30,000 solar system. I'm paying $100, $200 a month on this system, but now I still have to pay $50, $60 a month on APS. That doesn't make sense, right? You should have this system. Well, that's why, talking to a professional company also would make a big difference, because there's a lot of companies out there. We're obviously proud because we've been in Yavapai County for 50 years. There's no other company as far as a solar company that can say the same thing. And we've seen a lot of changes over the last couple of years. A lot of big dogs have gone out in the game, and people have had to hold their money a lot more over the last couple of years. So, whether it's solar or, your construction business, any kind of business, probably besides restaurants, have struggled over the last couple of years, and one thing we're all trying to figure out is how to save more money for our family. That's really what we're trying to, the bottom line is, how do I make more money and how can I save more money?
And if you can't afford solar right now, these are really good tips that are going to at least help us for a little bit, tighten that up.
Because there are the zero down solar, loan plans that are out there for homeowners that it still makes sense. Even with as dramatic these loan companies are charging you to get these loans, they still at least make sense. Right. Even though, like I said, I don't want to get an actual dealer fees or whatnot, but you have a low interest rate, and that loan company is going to charge you X amount to get this loan at 0 down, it still calculates to where you're still going to save over 25 years, whether it be $50,000, $150,000. So
unless you only plan on using electricity for the next like 8 years.
Exactly.
Or you
just want to go fully off grid, right?
So-
just cut off the grid completely.
Let's talk about that next.
Yeah. So that's a whole nother game right there,
Right.
going off grid. Could we deal, that's the majority of what we deal with in our company is battery backed up systems. So that could be known as a hybrid system or an off-grid system. Off-grid means you're obviously fully off-grid, not connected to the grid at all, to where you're dependent on your solar panels, your battery backup, and a generator.
This sounds like it can get very interesting.
It can.
Do you want to put a pin in this one and maybe move on to that one at the next episode?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, our man Kent over here with Powered, Prep, and Unplugged.
Empowered Prep Unplugged.
There it is.
There it is. Empowered Prep Unplugged.